Doc. What's up, Doc? We're here on the Theme Park Universe podcast with the Doc and the Wizard and the Doc and the Wizard. And we're going to host a whole bunch of topics today, including IAAPA, avatars, new theme parks, doctors, and more. So let's get right to it, Doctor. Let's actually share your screen.
Yes, please.
And what do we have here?
Well, this comes from to us from the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions, also known as IAAPA, a large convention held in the Orlando area, in which purveyors of all types of amusement parks stuff come to show their wares and show what they're doing, maybe make some deals on the floor and so forth. So this here comes from Intamin, as shared by Park Twister and yours right here, Theme Park Wizard. This is I believe it's the Falcon's Fury. Falcon's Flight. Okay, sorry about that. I get it confused there. Fury 325, I suppose. But this right here is, from what we understand, going to be the largest coaster in the world. So for us theme park, fans, this is a big deal. It's going to be opening in Kadaya. Is that correct there, Wizard? And perhaps you can reveal some of the stats associated with this coaster.
Oh, yes. And with first, Exa coaster is 624 feet tall with a 525-foot drop or something like that. And then it's themed white. The track's white, just like all these desert coasters are. And they'll be launching on 3 LSM launches to get you up to that massive cliff there. It'll be 2.5 miles long. That's right, the world's longest coaster. And as a funny poster revealed on Twitter, you'd have to be straight and male to ride the coaster.
Oh boy.
And the coaster has that camelback hill right there. It's 525 feet. And the coaster trains will have shields, and you'll be wearing goggles so the sand won't get in your face. And it'll be themed like a massive falcon, and it lights up, which looks pretty cool. And what's also pretty cool is a much better version of Autopia than we have. Look at that little race coaster right there. That's pretty nice.
I like that.
And it's already about halfway done in terms of construction, so it should be opening next year or so, or it should at least be done now on the park goes. But this coaster should be completed next year.
To give you an idea of just how large
159 miles per hour. 155, yes.
Yes, so fast that if you notice in this animation here, you see the coaster train right there? You see how there's a windshield in front of riders right there? That's how fast we're talking. To give people an idea of just how fast and how tall this is, the America's fastest, highest coaster, if you will, is only about 128 miles per hour and 456 feet high. That's King Dakar over there at the Six Flags Great Adventure. So this really is a lot faster, further. This is really going to push the limits of Intamin.
Higher, faster, farther, shall we say?
Oh yes, yeah. Not the box office, the production budget. No, no, no. This is really going to be quite the exhibition of Intamin's creative design work here, because to have a coaster this tall, to withstand the G's necessary to fabricate something that can actually take the stresses as posed by this coaster is a monumental task. And this is just really, really cool. We didn't just get an animation, however, we also got the grand reveal of the car itself, the train itself, that'll be going around the track. for visitors in Gdyea.
Look
So
at that beautiful thing,
look at
huh?
the massive wheels on that. The
That's
heat dissipation
humongous.
must be extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Love the light up, kind of Falcon's head right there on the end. That's absolutely fantastic. Looks like people are very comfortable. You can see that windshield actually featured there. Now, I believe, what is it? There's another coaster in the Middle East, right? That is apparently the fastest right now.
Yes, the Formula Rosa goes 150 miles per hour.
Right, and they actually hand out safety goggles, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right,
Yes,
was it?
you must wear safety goggles to ride
Right.
outside Abu Dhabi Ferrari World.
Right. So this, obviously that's not great for capacity or cleanliness. So to actually build a windshield into the coaster is of vital importance, and you can kind of see that right here. Some other stats that we have from this: it's going to be the first EXA coaster, any ride over 600 feet tall. 14 passengers per train, 6 trains, top speed of 156 miles per hour, as noted by Wizard, reached with the help of an LSM launch. So this is very crucial for capacity. You can't just have a chain lift; it's too slow. You actually have to launch you up the lift in order to get to that height. With any amount of speed. One of 3 on the ride. Let's see. Oh, yeah, the LSM launches, of course. Over 13,000 feet of track, 1.5 times longer than Steel Dragon 2000. So this is really, really cool. It is actually under construction right now, as Wizard noted earlier. I think there's some camera footage of that, but I couldn't find it in time for this video. Anyway, do some Google searching. You can look it up. This thing is
You go
absolutely
on
massive.
themeparkx.com. They have a lot of good construction up there.
There you go. Perfect. Love the shout out. Absolutely phenomenal stuff right here. Sorry about that. We also had some other things revealed in IAAPA as well.
Yes, we did like this Penguin Trek coaster train. And a lot of coaster trains. Fire in the Hole. And what else? There's a lot of coaster train reveals over that IAAPA.
This is also the showcase of some new technologies as well, like this hubless wheel design from Intamin, which is pretty cool. You can see it, because you don't have a hub and spoke kind of design, you can actually shape whatever this is, the hubless wheel, to fit the shapes of many different types and styles and so forth. I know Jonas, when upon seeing this, said, "Oh wow, wait until Disney gets their hands on this and shape it into a Mickey's head."
I know, right? Maybe a Pixar Pal Around replacement.
Yeah, Pixar Palawan replacement. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it is possible, but you can see it right here going through, a coaster going through it. You can see this very odd design. Maybe Vegas might want to take it up. Very, very cool. I love IAAPA. I love to see what companies are kind of envisioning, and even though we might not get them, at least in the immediate future anyway, it's cool to at least dream, right? To at least see what the possibilities might be. Go ahead.
We also got the design of the world's first Axis coaster from SNS. The Transformers theme coming to Saudi Arabia or someplace in the Middle East.
Right. So
pretty cool.
was that
was an earlier IAAPA concept, and now it's here.
Wow. Absolutely fantastic. And SNS is also, they showed off their single rail coaster, if I'm not
yes,
right?
The little single rail coaster they're developing, which should be pretty cool. Can't wait for one of those, more family oriented, so it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah. If you're wondering what a single rail coaster might look like, Rocky Mountain Construction has put in a couple of them, specifically Wonder Woman. The Lasso of Truth, I believe, is what it's called at Six Flags Magic Mountain. So you can get an idea of what that is. I like single rail coaster designs. If anybody recalls, one of my blue sky ideas for the Matterhorn actually utilizes a single rail design to replace the
Well,
track on that attraction.
why don't we get you on Glendale and make it happen, man?
I know. Should come on, Disney. You can do it. There are some limitations, obviously, with the envelope protection not necessarily existing in Matterhorn and so forth, that make a project like that unlikely. But I don't know, man. It's very uncomfortable. So I would. I'd very much appreciate that. Now, the other thing that got some play during IAAPA was, I suppose, a conversation with Chris Beatty from Walt Disney Imagineering,
Yes.
and supposedly the Avatar experience has been quote unquote confirmed for Disney California Adventure Park. Now, I'm using all that phraseology and those qualifiers, guys, for a reason, but Wizard, maybe you can speak to this a little bit.
Oh yeah. So on Monday, at an IAAPA lunch, it was Chris Beatty was talking to, I guess, the crowd, and he revealed or leaked or misspoke or whatever that the Avatar experience will be headed to Disney California Adventure Park, and then that was all he said. And then, but it was very interesting because we find those very soon details that Iger promised to still are not here. So it was cool to get a detail, non-detail, the detail whether it's true or not. Somewhere, somehow, kind of narrows down the one of the things we were wondering which park it was. So, but then Disney official came out and unconfirmed, or said, actually didn't unconfirm it. They said that's not some about a not formal announcement. So they didn't say it wasn't true. They just said it wasn't announced yet. So
Right. So Scott Gustin, so on Monday, yeah, the theme park world goes wild. Everybody's speculating at that time, and then Scott Gustin, is part of the the media crew who pours a little bit of water on that going. So BDI apparently confirmed, quote, the Avatar experience will be located at Disney California Adventure Park. No timeline or any information was shared today. The experience was first revealed by Disney CEO Bob Iger in February during a quarterly earnings call. However, when we look into it further, I thought I had the right tweet up, but I guess I do not. He was part of the crew here, which we love Scott Gustin here at Theme Park Universe, don't we?
oh yes.
By the way, guys, if you haven't checked out that video, definitely check it
Better
out.
watch it.
He is a fascinating gentleman, that is for sure. Let's see here. Did he delete the tweet?
Interesting. The update tweet. Interesting.
He might have actually. Wait a minute here. This might be some breaking news here, guys.
Did he delete it? No.
I think I quote tweeted it before. So let me see. Sorry, guys. We do apologize about this interruption. Oh, no. It's still here.
Oh, good. I said, interesting.
I'm about to say, I was like, wait, what? Okay, sorry, guys. Update. A Disneyland official reached out earlier today to say that there was no announcement made on behalf of Disneyland Resort regarding the location of the Avatar experience. It's unclear exactly what was said during the panel, or if someone misspoke or someone misheard. So that was kind of like the, kind of moment there because, well, as pointed out, Wizard, I mean, Bob Iger makes this announcement during a quarterly one earnings call. This is the first earnings call that he gives when he's officially back in the seat, having taken over the reins from Chapek, and taking the reins is actually probably accurate. So he's back in the seat. He says, hey, you know what? I just got I got out of a meeting with Josh Giamaro, and we're going to bring an Avatar experience over to Disneyland. And, that's significant because that's two investors. If it was a very simplistic Avatar experience, why is he delivering that to investors to get everybody hyped and psyched? That would be kind of an odd thing if it was anything small. And sure enough, the D23 magazine comes out with this splashy article saying the way of water stars react to news of an Avatar experience coming to Disneyland Resort. And you can read the various reactions from crew members as part of that film. However, it says right here, while details on the upcoming Avatar experience remain under wraps, it promises to be as amazing, and here's the quote here, as amazing as those found at Walt Disney World Resort. Quote, if you've had a chance to experience Pandora, the World of Avatar Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park, you have a pretty good idea of what the Imagineers are capable of. And that's via CEO Robert A. Iger when he announced the plans on February 8th. So it's like, okay, well, this is going to be probably really big, probably really elaborate. The the idea that it's going to be a Disney California Adventure kind of runs against this a little bit, because California Adventure, as everybody knows, is very landlocked. It only has one real expansion pad, and well, that's the remainder of the Timon lot, and we know for a fact that that's going to be utilized for the new Marvel e-ticket attraction. So where could this possibly go if it's in Disney California Adventure? Wizard, do you have any ideas yourself? Because I have about 4, but I kind of want to hear from you first.
Yes. What was I going to say? Okay, yeah. So back to the update about the mishearing Disney. Yeah,
Please.
they did say something about misheard or misspoke. I can tell you for one thing that he certainly didn't the person reporting didn't mishear it. I can confirm that because I saw a tweet from someone else who's on that panel who heard the exact same words. So definitely wasn't misheard, even though that's what Disneyland said. So it could have been misspoken, but that's what he said. Now, okay, so oh boy, this Avatar. Me and this Avatar have a gripe because boy, I've been begging for 9 months now. So he said this in the earnings call, this one sentence, and he said it again in March. So it was in March. He said the same thing. Then he said details will be shared very soon. And so I was like, all right, he said nothing again. Let me go ahead and reach out to some people I know. I reached out to some people, a couple, two, I can't say their name, but one of them, a third one I saw on the forums, and I just asked, was Alicia Stella. And so all those 3 people, though, all said at that time, way back in March, like the experience would be something similar to Shanghai and would go on California Adventures. I'm like, okay, so the whole time I'm just thinking that's what it's doing. And then I'm hopeful, but I was hopeful, when the OG's through and everyone's like, oh, it's gonna be this big land. I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it. I'm ready. But it's still in the back of my mind. I'm like, these people who've been writing about other stuff, I don't think said this about California Adventure. I'm like, okay, all right, it's on me. I'll prepare for a Shanghai type thing, but hope for a land type thing. And then now he's at California Adventure again. Misspoke or whatever. So now I'm still thinking it could be as and the article said as amazing. It could still be a thing in a sound stage, but the theming could be as amazing as Pandora, and they can easily just refer to that as someone calls them out of that quote over there. So I'm still on the thought that until someone shows me something different, someone hasn't, Bob Iger, shows me something different, I'm thinking it's going to be in the former Avengers Superstore space. And it could be something like Shanghai with probably some animatronics, some nice neon. It's indoors, so you can really kind of play around with the environment there and make it feel like you're outside or like what, funny enough, Animal Kingdom rarely gets Pandora at nighttime. You can make that feel like that all the time here at California Adventure. So unless someone shows me a big land, or anything, just anything besides 2 sentences. I can count the number of sentences on my hand I've heard about this in 9 months, and it's been 4 from everybody. So I don't know. Like, who's supposed to know? So that's where I'm thinking it's going. I know other people have said, drummed up ideas of retheming Grizzly Peak, but then what do you do with the Grand California Hotel? Anything, and that's another one, though. I'm fine with that. Anything to give Grizzly River on some animatronics, please. Something.
Yeah.
Come on. So I don't know where else in California Adventure. Oh, I mean, okay. if they're purposely being quiet, because I was watching OG's Avatar video on it, and that shout out to the OG. I know you'll be watching this one, and they said, what if they're being quiet because they don't want to like extend their hand or something like for something to delay the Disneyland Forward approval. Right? I get it, makes sense, right? You don't be like, hey, let's announce this expansion, especially something that may get like a massive Avatar. Pandora, what if the presidents get upset right before they approve the thing? I get it. So then stop saying it, right? That's my only gripe. Just say it once on your call. He gave an update. More details will be shared. Don't say soon. That's nothing. I really hated that. He said very soon. Just say next year. Disneyland Forward is going to be approved next year. So just say, hey, more details will be shared next year. And then I would have been totally fine. But it's Iger's wording, really. That's really getting me upset. So maybe, that my third option would be maybe they're waiting for the approval, then they announce a big land like a big Pandora type land in the Disneyland Forward California Adventure lot, and that's fine with me. But it just be more transparent. Like don't like lie or like don't like be like maybe this, maybe just either don't say it or don't. Is that the communication is really bothering me.
I don't disagree. Well, look, I mean, Bob Iger is a politician, right? And so why limit yourself to timelines like next year when you could say just soon? And that means, well, it could be next month, could be next 4 years. Who knows, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen Bob Iger play with this kind of language before. We've seen the kind of Disney company take on that kind of motif, right, when it comes to setting expectations, timelines, and all that. Interesting how they still haven't recalibrated into, I think, the better days of Disney's PR and all that in their media relations. We see how that has, definitely impacted this story specifically. I do agree with you, Wizard. I think something was said. And the company is trying to get ahead of that story, right? They're a company of storytellers, and they'll spin you a yarn. But we'll get to that point in a moment. What you're seeing right here on screen, folks, is the Avatar experience as it exists in Singapore, as filmed by Attractions 360. Lovely video, might I add, and you can kind of see what an Avatar experience, has meant until maybe coming up here. I think that this one's tricky because I think a lot of people who had been beat down by the JPEG years were going, okay, when they say Avatar experience, let's not expect anything big. I and some others took that announcement to mean that, look, I think, coming off of the huge success that was Way of Water, I think Iger did in fact have an idea of going ambitious with Avatar at Disneyland, at least at one point, right? And then he gets a look at the finances and goes, uh-oh, we're in trouble. Maybe we don't necessarily swing to the fences. Maybe we do something on the level of what you actually see in front of you via this Avatar experience in Singapore or something like that. And I think slowly it's starting to be scaled back simply because of the realities of the moment and the macroeconomic factors that, well, Disney has to play in. I think, with it kind of being thrust into California Adventure, I agree with you, Wizard. The scenario that plays out that it's a little bit smaller of an exhibit, more than like a land like we see at Pandora, Animal Kingdom. I think that becomes, let's say, more realistic. that becomes a little bit more probable at this point. Go ahead, Wizard.
And then say even if they did that, if they did something really quick and it's done in like 6 months or something, that would be actually pretty fine as like a temporary thing. And then once they finish the Eastern Gateway, right, then do a full, if it's really popular, do a full Pandora land in that big Disneyland Forward expansion spot.
Yeah,
but it's fine if they average popular right now, but I mean, they have 3 more movies coming out, so they'll be around for a long time. So you can put something like this up real quickly, and it sounds a big. I mean, if you're not going to demolish them, those sound stages are big empty spaces. Use them for something.
Correct.
Put a nice experience there. test, have some, get our avatar fixed, and if it's really super popular, then hey, make the avatar or Pandora be the first land, or some sort of Pandora land, be the first major part of that Disneyland Forward expansion pad. And then that way you can get Avatar now, but also later for the future and the long term, because you still have to build the Eastern Gateway first. So it'll be a few years. So you can have this round in the soundstage from 5 to 6 years or whatever, and then build the big thing. And when you have all that space to play with in the parking lot, which would be imagine that those transitions they're talking about with the bridge with the little rock and enter into the rock formation. It looks pretty good. So honestly, I don't know what their plan is, as we all know, but I mean, I would do that if I were Disney, especially because now it allows you, even if you're short on cash, to put some in there. Then in 5 to 6 years, maybe you'll have a lot more cash, and then can really go big.
Well, that's when they turbocharge it, right?
Yeah,
Wizard?
turbocharge.
which we'll refer to that in a moment. But what Ethan is referring to here with the esteemed wizard, wait, is this the right? Yeah, this is the right one. Okay, is so this is from a previous Imagineer, Jim Shaw, talking about the concepts that you could necessarily bring and foist into DCA here. Specifically, what you're seeing on your screen is kind of an aerial shot of, or Google Maps shot of the Hollywood Land section of this theme park right here. And what Wizard is referring to when it comes to like Disneyland Forward and how this all interplays is to the north of this, you have the bus depot drop-off area, which was supposed to be earmarked for removal and expansion for DCA specifically as part of that Eastern Gateway project. Unfortunately, that that was postponed a little bit. It was originally earmarked for Marvel, and when that was pushed back, it was like, okay, well, let's go ahead and let's just shift this to the south, take up Bugs Land, start small, and then grow big. And so that's why Avengers Campus is not in its finished form, folks. It is going to be added to, and from what we understood, it was going to eventually take up this amount of real estate, but after Disneyland Forward was approved with its new bus drop-off area right next to its parking garage and its pedestrian bridge and all that. But now it's like, well, do we take this plot of land and earmark it for Avatar specifically? I'm going to push back on that idea just a little bit, only because, I mean, quite frankly, if you take up all of the real estate that exists in this section of park right now, you're talking about a little bit, about 8 acres, and honestly, that could contain quite a bit of these concepts and ideas, at least when we compare it to the acreage of Pandora and Disney's Animal Kingdom. So why, in fact, would we, why? I mean, if you didn't need to, why take up the area to the north? I suppose is the question. When you could maybe work on this stuff now. A little bit of a risky maneuver because we know modern theme park design indicates that you put the show buildings. You put it like a berm, right, around the pedestrian walkways and so forth in front of there, creating a forecourt, and there you go. So the problem with that is well, now if you create like a large show building or something, now you're literally denying yourself from, the area to the north of this. So it's like it's a very kind of complex kind of back and forth here, which is why the Imagineers originally moved south with Avengers Campus. I suppose it is possible that this area is earmarked for, but again, Disneyland Forward, even if it was approved right now, you're still talking about 3 to 5 years before Imagineers could even start working on this specific concept because, well, the parking garage and the bus depot area has to be constructed first with its pedestrian bridge before you can start on something like this. So it's like, I don't know. Do we necessarily see that, Wizard? And then, well, the plot of land to the Symbol lot, right, beneath downtown Disney / Pixar place, right? One can presume, well, maybe you put an Avatar experience over there, but maybe that's even longer given that you had to have pedestrian access to that area. It's nice and segmented from DCA, so maybe it could incorporate its own theme. But there are logistical challenges with both of these. Not to mention, it's like, okay, why would we do any of that when we can build right now in the north section of Disneyland where the monorail is currently, the bulk of its trek is currently being housed just north of the Submarine Lagoon. It's like, why not use that if we're going to build something of substance and scale? This is why I have my doubts on just how ambitious they're going to eventually go with this Avatar experience and why they may have pared it back. But Wizard, would you want to expand on this point a little bit?
Yes, well, I just had a question here.
Sure.
Because Avatar, they're talking about Avatar, but they announced Frozen 3 and 4 today. So, I mean, come on, which one goes first, right? Frozen Land, an Avatar experience, or that e-ticket we're still waiting for, Avengers. I mean, how long is that going to take?
Yeah. Well, that's the question, right? We just we've had very sparing information ever since that project was originally announced at D23 Expo 2019 by Bob Chapek himself, right? We got an idea of what that was, what it was going to look like, and then, well, 2020 happens, and that kind of upends everything. So, at D23 Expo 2022, if I recall correctly, they announced that that's going to be reimagined somewhat, right? And it's going to take on a different form. Now, thankfully, we did get confirmation that there will be physical sets that will be utilized, and we got a look at the ride vehicle. So, like, it's coming. We know it's going to be earmarked for that spot specifically, but it's Wizard brings up a good question here. Is this going to be at the Disneyland Resort first before this Avatar experience, if it is at all of substance, or what? This is what I'm thinking, Wizard. I think Alicia Stella might be right here. I think it might be something that they stick in Stage 17. If you see this aerial again, you can see that little 17 right there. Just besides the Monsters Inc. Mike and Sully to the Rescue attraction, we can see right here that might be the place where you have an Avatar exhibition. It could be, or Avatar exhibit. It could be that simple. It could just be a promotion for the next film, for all we know, and that's why they're using the terminology experience. And it's sad to think about, but at this point, it's, I would think, far more likely than them utilizing the last expansion pads available to Disney California Adventure of size, and those are only going to be afforded to them via Disneyland Forward, which we know is going to take some time.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we get some. Hopefully, when Disneyland Forward's approved, we get some more clarity on what's starting when and when that's happening. Because God, and hopefully they're just waiting for that, because that is maybe in the considering. Even with the Frozen, they said Frozen 3, but we might make Frozen 4 too. Like, I don't know, I keep doing that, but
right. Well, yeah, we might make Frozen 4. I could foresee, Wizard, them earmarking that space to the north of the submarine voyage, to specifically the Frozen Land.
And see, that's what I'm saying. If we're going on one thing at a time. If Frozen pops on an Avatar, then the Avengers is pushed to like 2090. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Look, I've been really excited for that thing since 2017, guys. Okay. And then it breaks my heart that it couldn't be all built at one time, because, see, the inevitable phase 2 is now pushed back. It's so sad.
It is really unfortunate. It's and here's the thing too. The earnings call, what is it? It was Q4 2023. Mm-hmm. The quarter between July and September was just revealed on November 8th, if that's correct there, Wizard. And they used the terminology, both Kevin Lansbury, the interim CFO, and Bob Iger, the CEO, used the word turbocharged multiple times, and how, we're going to turbocharge the parking experience. We're going to turbocharge the parking experience by really investing in the back half of that 10-year plan that we have via that $60 billion that we've talked about on this show before. And it's like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't exactly ring turbocharge. Like, what are you talking about? So it's that's confused language right there for sure. $60 billion, as we've noted before. When you talk about when you talk about inflation, when you talk about stuff like amortization, all kinds of different factors that go into the finances of these parks, you figure out that the averages of $6 billion a year, well, that's essentially what we've been given now. Now, I understand there's a concept of, well, if we reduce that down to $4 billion a year, now we have surplus in which we can use in the back half of that. And I want to remind folks, if anybody has experienced a downturn in terms of the maintenance at these parks right now with $6 billion, one can imagine what it's going to be like with only $4 billion which to pull from for these parks. So I'm not exactly thrilled about that concept, but let's just say it's possible, right? Again, if we're waiting until the back half of this 10-year plan to initiate some of these expansion ideas or opportunities, well, that's 2028 at that point, right? Iger's only contracting until 2026. And when a new CEO comes in, maybe he's not a fan of Avatar. Maybe he doesn't want to necessarily, pour all these resources into that specific
or a fan
franchise.
of investing in the parks.
Right. Could be, hey, you know what?
Yeah, like, what if it's a Daddy Josh?
What if it's a Daddy Josh, or what if it's a Chapek type mentality where it's like, these aren't the places we invest money. These are the places we take money from to invest in all of these other things. Maybe DTC isn't necessarily as profitable for the company and requires even more money at that time. Anything could happen. And, Iger and Kevin Lansbury, and now Hugh Johnston, right, is, with them confirming that they're going to push these things back. It's kind of all smoke and mirrors, Wizard. It's just like you said right there, when you were frustrated over the soon language, it's more of that, honestly.
Yeah, I just a lot of we don't know what's happening, but they keep talking, and it's so very annoying.
It is. Another scenario that could play out, and I feel the need to address this as well. So Dusty from MiceChat has said for years now that an idea that you could that could come to fruition, right? That the company could capitalize on is maybe taking the Soarin' area, so the Grizzly Peak Airfield area, retheming that to a version of Pandora, right? Maybe take Smoke Jumpers and Soarin', that have a kind of military aesthetic as they exist today, maybe make those into research stations, plants and flora, place in a new film in the Soarin' Theater, and have you gliding over Pandora. That is a possibility with this as well. Honestly, we'll see how ambitious the company is, but when they set this into Disney California Adventure, I think a little bit of that ambition went with it. I think I just don't imagine the size and scale that was maybe intimated with the D23 announcement that this is going to be somehow a something on the level of Pandora. It seems very unlikely at this stage. And yes, there are expansion opportunities here, but much of that is unlocked with Disneyland Forward, which, again, even if that's approved today, we're talking years away from a time when that land is usable, functional, and accessible to guests.
And what do you think of Avatar went in there? Would a name change be in the cards for California Adventure?
Well, it depends on how they theme it, right? So if it's if it's the Californian gateway to Pandora, well, then you necessarily don't have to. Then you don't have to rename Disney California Adventure. I guess there was a tweet here by Jim Shaw that in which he suggested that the name be changed. Like, I think it was it was like experiences in
like
California.
Disney Adventures in California or something. Like he had changed an apostrophe or something. It was like the same name. It was like a different output. So
yeah,
it meant like Disney Adventures in California, which makes sense.
So it's kind of like, okay, these experiences just take place within this park that happens to be in California rather than just California experiences. Does that make sense? Like that's the kind of the switch there. It's an idea, I suppose. I suppose it just depends on what they finagle to get this thematically right here, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm just
maybe they don't care enough, so they'll just keep
yeah. I mean that's the thing too. You do have a lot of creatives working at the company right now, and that includes Imagineering, who simply don't care. They're fresh out of design school, right? They're trying to put things onto their portfolios. As long as it's on time, under budget, that is now a project that they can cite as one of their own when applying for the Gensler position. I mean, honestly, it's kind of depressing to think about that, but that kind of mentality absolutely exists and has permeated the halls of WDI as Burbank has placed less emphasis on experience and passing of the torch and more emphasis on, profits and hiring people that don't have experience because experience costs money. I mean, literally that dynamic is playing out here. So I'm not necessarily as enthusiastic about this project as I once was, but we will see. And who knows? Maybe Scott Goosen is, maybe it's correct that they haven't necessarily chosen DCA as its landing pad, and perhaps it's still in the works.
We'll have to see in another 19 months when they say in one more sentence to us.
Yeah, exactly, right?
One thing Imagineering did do well, I must say, is that there's a treehouse, not really an IP there, and they had plussed it up quite a bit, and had some animatronics. I must say they did a fantastic. In fact, I have so many people referring to that as classic Disney. I must agree.
I do agree. I have been very complimentary of that project as it has developed. Not quite complimentary of the timeline, of course. It shouldn't necessarily take 2 years to bring some of these things to fruition. However,
that would have been way worse if it took 2 years and we got less than the previous version. Well, at least, thank goodness, they plussed it up a lot. So. Whew.
Right, and the fact that they put in an audio-animatronic ostrich, for example, right, that harkens back to the actual Swiss Family Robinson film, that is so cool. I remember hearing a story about from Tony Baxter, who wanted to originally put audio-animatronics in for the Tarzan's Treehouse redo, and how they were denied because of some forecasting that predicted that it necessarily wouldn't get the reception to justify an expense like that. And well, sure enough, it did. So it was kind of unfortunate. But the fact that they are now kind of going back to that idea, actually putting in audio animatronics inside, putting in like a dancing violin and so forth. I mean, that is some really cool stuff.
And of course, the water wheel and the buckets when they're working look fantastic.
Yeah, that's the key terminology there.
Waterfall.
We will save our review of those things, also to the San Francisco Neon there, when we actually get there. I believe we're going, December 9th? Is that right, Wizard?
December 9th.
Oh, yes. So that'll be quite the joyous occasion. And we'll come back and reveal all of the splendor that was our Disneyland visit when we actually do visit ourselves. However, what will not be splendid is, Fantasmic's not going to be a part of that. However, they did announce an opening date for Fantasmic. You can see right here.
Memorial Day weekend.
Quote, at a Fantasmicast meeting earlier this week, we announced that the show will return on May 24th. We look forward to providing more information about Fantasmic in the coming months. But for now, this is all we have to share. And we know that they're going to be adding, a little bit more magic, would you say, Wizards for the show?
I'm excited to see this new magic may be. Well, we don't have the dragon initially, so I'm excited to see what's I know the Mark Twain is going to do a pretty extensive refurb to get ready for this new magic, so sounds exciting. Glad we have a nice return date, and we'll be here before we know it. It'll be just a few 7 months away or so.
I am very excited about this. I'm very excited about the prospect of experiencing this show with a little bit with a few enhancements. I mean, people remember when what is it, the 2017 version of the show debuted, Fantasmic 2.0 as it were, as Star Wars Galaxy's Edge construction was taking place. They had to what is it, dam off portions of the river in order to accomplish that monumental task of rounding out the bend there, and they did an absolutely fantastic job. Gave Fantasmic a new marina, and it was all good. Well, when the show finally came back, Steve Davison made a few tweaks, and, well, it wasn't maybe necessarily as well received as some previous editions that have been made to the show over the years. And so I think this opens up an opportunity to kind of correct some of those things, Wizard, if it were. I mean, can we do something about that Pirates of the Caribbean sequence? I mean, it'd be nice to get Peter Pan back, but obviously, the company might have some different ideas there. Could we address...
I have a hot take, Dr. Dre.
Please.
I really like the Pirates of the Caribbean sequence.
You do? Okay. All right. You like the Jack, every 4 seconds during the performance of that segment. Okay, well, to each other.
Love when the music comes on, and oh my god, I just love every time that Pirates give me anything. So, oh god, I hope that one stays because it's actually one of my favorite parts of it. But
really,
it is. That's probably I remember the show, and I saw it recently. Oh, before no, it's been. But one of the most memorable parts each time I see it is when that part comes on.
Theme Park Casual is listening right now, and he's literally just rolling around. I mean, he is just he's not having a good day right now. Upon hearing that, okay. The choreography is interesting for that segment of the show. Very similar to Peter Pan with a few changes, especially the jumping sequence in which the Keira Knightley character from that film, or at least that's the one attempting to be portrayed in that segment, is revealed. I think I have a couple of problems with that segment. So one was the original intention for that segment was obviously the what is it that it's the scene in the original Pirates of the Caribbean where Barbossa walks out, he walks into the moonlight, and he turns into a skeleton, and you see the skeleton crew right around her, and the idea was like, let's take that scene, right, and let's mix that scene with the finale scene where we have these same ghostly crewmates going in and out of the moonlight and going from real to skeleton. Could we somehow perform that in Fantasmic? And the original idea was to do projection mapping on the actors themselves in order to go back and forth from person to skeleton. And it was a really kind of ambitious idea. Turns out that nobody could hit their mark as precisely as would have been required to achieve that effect, so they kind of dumped it and went with this kind of skeleton makeup and so forth, and it was a little bit underwhelming because it's a very dark sequence. In order to make the skeleton costuming work, you have to use blacklight, and so it's a little bit hard to see and kind of understand what all is happening within that choreography. Like I said, the writing is not necessarily as good. If I have to hear Jack one more time, I swear I'm gonna lose it. Okay, this is, oh man, it is so shrieking sometimes. All right. But then, it just, I don't know, it just doesn't have necessarily, I guess, the heart of the Peter Pan sequence, which is now very, very beloved as a result of this sequence. I don't know. I mean, look, if they could plus it up, I agree with you, Wizard. I love the music. And I love what they were attempting to do. However, the execution, I don't think, is as strong as it could be. So perhaps some tweaking at minimum could go into that scene.
I'll take a nice plus. Dr. Dre.
Take a nice plus as well. The Pinocchio scene that used to play, It's now been, and that was a kind of a problematic thing that had a lot of technical difficulties attached to it. That was one of the things that they removed during the 2017 version, and instead, in its place, put in like a some projections of that sequence, but with Daisy, Donald, and Minnie representing the characters that used to play during that sequence. There's just some stuff that's like, I think we could do better. I think we could, maybe even get more modern characters in there. We'll see what they do here, but we know for certain, Wizard, that the dragon will not necessarily be making its appearances on that May 24th date. Looks like they might do something in the interim while a new dragon is constructed, or at least that's the hope. We will see in the coming months and even years.
Unfortunately. Hopefully it's just months.
It takes a long time to design something of that scale, Wizard. It does, and it takes a lot to get the funding there. As noted in the earnings call, which I'll briefly touch on here, the parks are self-funded, but yet we're taking all of the capital and revenue that those things bring in and pouring those into other areas of the company and leaving the parks with nothing. This is awesome. I love this idea that the Disney company has employed here. The earnings... some deception there in terms of numbers featured there. I believe Braden from Mickey Views, who, if you haven't subscribed to that channel, guys, you definitely need to subscribe to that channel on YouTube. He has a wonderful breakdown of the earnings call and how, we're going to change the D plus figures from an annual metric to a quarterly metric in order to make those look higher. And, the 7 million new subscribers, a bunch of smoke and mirrors, most of that, about 6.5, I should say 6.5 million of those came from international. They attribute 500,000 new subscribers in the United States. However, if you look at the year to date, that is reduced to about 100,000, as they had 46.4 subscribers in terms of millions in the year ago quarterly earnings call, whereas now they only have 46.5 million subscribers. So they only went up 0.1, so it's only 100,000 gain. It's just they play around with these numbers and stuff all the time. However, I did look in terms of the park side, because I think I was talking to you, Wizard, and I said, okay, the two things I'm most interested in is the subscriber growth, right? Because we're about to shed another $8 billion and just funnel that over to Comcast for the acquisition of Hulu. So I wanted to make sure that we were still gaining, and we were. we were. $2.99 summer promotion helps in that regard. But wanted to look and see what the parks had on offer. I was worried about Walt Disney World we had heard that the attendance was low in the summer, and actually the last guidance that Christine McCarthy gave was that attendance was going to be soft because the 50th anniversary had taken place the last summer. So I was like, okay, well, that's weird. It's weird because the 50th anniversary, I don't think was as successful as they might be citing. So I was like, okay, well, we just had a new attraction, the Tron open. Wouldn't that carry us in the summer? Well, it turns out her guidance was correct. It was a very soft summer in terms of attendance. But I was also concerned about the per cap spending, or the per guest spend. Because we know from Six Flags earnings reports that if you have a low attendance and low per guest spend, that's the kiss of death. Well, sure enough, Walt Disney World posted some reduced revenue in that sector on that guest spend. Now they cite the hotels that they had discounted over the summer, and I would say that is appropriate, right? You have about 40,000 plus rooms on resort property. If you're discounting those, obviously that will that will present itself in reduced guest spend for sure. But I suspect, and it wasn't noted on the earnings sheet, but I suspect that per guest spend is going down in several sectors, not just with hotels, but I think guests are spending less on food. I think they're spending less on merch and so forth, on consumer products while they're in the parks. I think that is occurring. Disneyland was up, which is good, but Disneyland doesn't necessarily, contribute to near the revenue that the entirety of Walt Disney World does. So it is going to be a tough segment here coming up, and
We'll have
I
to
guess
keep watching, especially as we'll see how many Disney Plus people will keep their stuff with the price increase and this next quarter. So that'll be interesting.
right. And I guess this kind of gets us to what my thoughts of the Florida experience were. I'll posit this to you, Wizard. Do you want me to go over my Walt Disney World experience and my Universal experience, or you just want me to break them up? What do you want me to do?
Well, I was thinking, actually, we can let's see, but pair that with when we talk about the Adventureland Treehouse in San Francisco side, do a little compare and contrast the state of Disneyland versus the state of Disney World and Universal.
Fantastic. Okay. So we want to hold back the
until that'll be our
December 15th.
December 15th. We're recording it, but December 30th or December 3rd, New Year's Eve, that will be coming out. Well, we're recording December 15th. Yeah, buddy.
Okay. All right. Well, then I will go ahead and hold off on my reaction.
Stay tuned. You better subscribe.
You got to definitely subscribe. That is for sure. But to round this kind of segment off then, and to kind of close up the conversation here, it was disheartening to hear that, they on the earnings call with Bob Iger and Levitt Lansbury there, talk about the parks and we're developing new cruise ships and we're spending all this money internationally and not really hearing anything from the domestic parks. Now they say supercharged, but then it's like the back half, and it's like, look, guys, we just had Value Act. I guess announced that they've been acquiring shares, and they said that the $80 per share figure that the company has been kind of resting around for a while. Well, that just makes up the theme park assets, and it's like those have, in their opinion, at least it seems, those have been underutilized, and that's what we heard from Nelson Peltz. Nelson Peltz said, "Hey, wait a minute, you're over earning in this segment. You're not investing enough capital back into it. This is what is it? This is not great capital allocation, let's say." I'm a little bit disheartened that Disney, of all folks, have just not been investing here. At the same time, we have a new theme park opening up right now in Florida in the form of Epic Universe. We have now a new regional park being built right now from Universal in Texas. We have a new Halloween Horror Nights experience going in Vegas. We have a new coaster being developed in the form of Fast and Furious coaster at Universal Studios Hollywood. Universal Studios Florida, we have a new themed land coming. I believe it's going to be DreamWorks, if I'm not mistaken, Wizard. We have heard concepts of a Zelda-themed land coming. We have heard concepts of a Phase 2 and a Phase 3 for Epic Universe expansions. We now are on the precipice of maybe getting a new Universal theme park in Europe. They are going all out with their theme park segment, and Disney has been largely stagnant.
Very, it's so weird. I don't know why, but hopefully they change with this Avatar and anything. But shout out to the World of Frozen opening up in 4 days. Looks fantastic.
And Fantasy, or the Fantasy Springs.
Fantasy Springs opened up in June of next year. Looks gorgeous, and the Disney Hotel side.
Absolutely.
So, those international guys are living it up, Dr. Dre.
I guess so. And then we just got a little bit like this video clip from Zootopia at IAAPA as well. It's great. It's great that they're getting things, but man, when you look at the profit sector, profit sectors for the company, right? And you see the parks division contributing towards like 60% of overall profit for the company, you just go, why aren't we getting more? I understand that the studios require investments and large investments in order to keep that creative engine going, but to put out movies like Frozen 3 and Frozen 4 and Toy Story 5 and Zootopia 2 and stuff like that. You can see Bob Iger going back to that well. One, because he knows that those films are guaranteed to make money, but two, I think he has some reservations about this era of creatives. I think the handing off $200 million films to people who have not necessarily worked on a team on a project that large hasn't been necessarily profitable, especially when it comes to the original films. But I would argue that there have been problems with the franchise films as well. We saw that Lightyear underperformed at the box office, for example, right? So do we necessarily want to give these franchises that have so much revenue potential for the company and have so much storytelling opportunity for the company, do we necessarily want to hand off these films to these era of creatives who might end up ruining them? I think the big problem here is that the creatives, as part of the Walt Disney Company, they're maybe not up to snuff to the projects laid out before them, but we'll see.
Yeah. We'll have to see. Oh boy, it'll be an interesting few months into the next year. And guys, that wraps up this Theme Park Universe episode 7. Happy Thanksgiving. That would have already passed, but happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays. And don't forget to like, subscribe, check out the Patreon, and guess what? Share it out to all your friends. Adios. Bonitos, bonitos, balada. Woo!